Greetings, Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live from the Maverick News Network World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Nothing is normal. We're not back to normal. We're not even close to normal. It sort of feels like it's normal, but there's nothing normal about what is going on out there. Protests daily. That's not normal. People who can't tell whether they're who can't tell what gender they are. That's not normal. Sorry, it just isn't. I'll show you. People want to tear down their own country, destroy their own country. When I was younger, people had at least some pride in this place that we live in. Not now. Some. Most people are apathetic. And then we have people who want to tear it all down. And then we have people saying, name the names. Name the names of the traitors. The corrupt politicians. Those who are wittingly or unwittingly aiding foreign powers to undermine the very fabric of our society. And we know that those people are there because we've seen the testimony, the evidence, such as it is in limited form, presented in Ottawa, in hearings, from CSIS, from intelligence agencies. And yet I would submit that if you really want to find the traitors, they're probably closer than you think. You might not need to go to Ottawa. I'll show you what I mean very shortly. Name the names. I think if the names were named, some people might be disappointed. I think that we'll learn more about all of this in due course. I'll tell you something else that's not normal. A story about a frozen head from a celebrity. A baseball star. I'm going to tell you about that too. A deceased baseball star, frozen head. Bizarre. That'll be in our Truspiracies segment for tonight, coming up. And you know, it's the anniversary of Richard Nixon saying farewell to his staff. We'll take a look back in time at that. That didn't feel normal either. And that was back in the 70s, when things were more normal. I mean, that seems downright normal compared to everything going on today. Things are just, to borrow a phrase from the Harris presidential campaign, things are weird. Don't go away. I've got a lot to share with you tonight.
He's a fighter. He He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight for freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from, but there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech, free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Okay, so let's start with this. I was talking about protests. This might be a positive development. I said about a month ago that what is needed is to bring back no mask laws. Wearing of masks was largely normalized during the pandemic. But you know, there are laws in place in many states, many provinces, many jurisdictions that prohibit the wearing of masks, or at least they did prohibit the wearing of masks during protests and during the commission of crimes like robberies. But with some people claiming religious or cultural immunity from such laws, the enforcement of such laws has been waning. However, today, our friend Karim Assad was out and about covering protests again in the Brampton area, and this happened. And I have not seen this happen in a long time. Protesters approached by police. The protesters asked to remove their masks. The law was explained to them. You remove the masks, you will remove a lot of the trouble, a lot of the vandalism that has been coming with a lot of these protests. That's because people won't be able to conceal their identities, and security cameras and witnesses will be able to identify the people causing the problems. Here's what happened today.
Part of a lawful assembly is you have to be unmasked. You gotta wear a mask, you have to leave.
Not sure about that.
Yep. Section 63.
Section what?
63 of the code. Go ahead with the unlawful assembly.
Can I look it up?
Absolutely. I wouldn't give you anything. Okay, looks good. I need a 63 or 66. Just look up the definition of what makes a lawful and unlawful assembly. Part of a lawful assembly is not being masked. Okay?
I didn't know that. There have been calls on the U.S. side as well for mask laws to be reinstated or even created to deal with violence, vandalism, other problems in the streets during these protests. Now, Karim Assad was in Brampton. That is where today the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, was arriving and was given a very cold but loud reception from those protesters you just saw. Here was the scene. Again, credit to Karim Assad. Go check out her work. Give you just a little bit of her clip here. And here's Trudeau's carbon spewing convoy arriving in Brampton.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Genocidal freaks! Shame on you! Shame! Shame on you! Disgusting! You're pathetic! Pathetic excuse for humans supporting genocide!
So, yeah, they're not happy with Monsieur Trudeau. All right. Well, let's get into something related to that tonight. I should mention as well that Dragon was going to come on tonight, but really, after discussion with him, we just didn't quite have enough material to justify a full-blown report. A preview of things to come for tomorrow. There is going to be a big Pride event, sort of a parade tomorrow, and we have seen, I showed you yesterday, the flyer that has been distributed, or I should say, I guess it's like a poster that's been distributed online. Here it is here, saying that there will be a protest against the Pride parade, and it will be led, I guess, by a pro-Palestinian group. How that's going to play out tomorrow, I don't know. Here's what we showed you yesterday, and this is Dragon's work, so he gets all the credit for this, for finding this and drawing it to our attention. In this post, the anti-Pride group is saying, we demand that Pride Montreal cuts ties with all sponsor and partners that has complicity. OE supports the genocide. It's a spelling error, probably because whoever put this out was bilingual, probably predominantly French. Let's stop this parade together. Pride is a protest, so we will protest. And that is supposed to happen tomorrow, and I know the Dragon's going to be on the scene, doing his usual great job and keeping tabs on what's going on, and he'll bring us up to date. But that's as far as we've been able to take it. Really, he did... we did mention yesterday that he did speak to police. They're going to be observing just to keep the public safe. And he's spoken to a few other people to kind of get an indication of where things are likely to go tomorrow. And whatever happens, I'm sure he'll keep us informed. Now, you want to talk about, I showed you couple of days ago video of a guy who had a crazed look in his eyes and leveled a threat against the prime minister. It was enough to get him arrested, charged with uttering threats, possibly a hate crime. It's important to take note of that, and I want to draw your attention to it because people are being radicalized, maybe even driven a little bit loopy, to be quite frank, by things they are seeing online. Things they think are truth, things they think are factual, are indeed sometimes not. In fact, I would go further, maybe even a lot further, and say that we are all being bombarded with propaganda. But it is not always coming from our government. It's coming from outside governments, outside influences, and they're often using domestic sources or people who claim to be journalists to deliver said information. It's an information war. I now draw your attention to Randi Nord, a young woman who owns, I guess, and operates, was the editor of Geopolitics Alert, charged A year ago, she was, for spray painting a swastika on a synagogue, and also was involved in setting a Church of Scientology on fire. Now, the charges all came down a year ago. She was arraigned back it was just a little over a year ago in court after being accused of spray painting racist graffiti at a Jewish center in Royal Oak. This is over in the Detroit area, okay? But this goes much further. At first glance, people didn't know what to make of it. They thought, see, it was a swastika with the word Azov on it, and people didn't know what to make of it. Of course, a lot of people connecting that graffiti with what's going on in Ukraine, and it looked like maybe it was a pro-Ukrainian neo-Nazi person here in North America or in the Detroit area who was guilty of doing that, and there was an investigation launched. Well, a year ago, all of that was going on, and where did that lead investigators? It led them to Randi Nord. Randi Nord was subsequently charged, and the charges have been quite serious because she didn't just do that. She told police about a larger plan that she had to actually foment a full-scale war on domestic soil, and even wanted to bring in military-grade weapons from Turkey, Ukraine, Russia to start an actual war in Hamtramck. Let's just dial things back a little bit. I have actually an initial media report that I'll share with you tonight. This is from a year ago. And the reason I bring this up is because Randi Nord still appears to be in custody. The story has sort of been slipping off the radar. It is, and she's still not been sentenced. She's gone through a process and a psychiatric assessment has been ordered. But I've gone back and I've looked at a lot of Randi Nord's material as a journalist. She's not crazy. She's been radicalized. There is a difference. And I would submit that a lot of people are being radicalized in the same way, and they just don't realize it. Randi Nord is an anti-imperialist, an anti-American. That's what she really is. She has been so radicalized that she hates her country. And that's why she wanted to do what she tried to do. That's why she was engaging in that kind of activity. That's why she is still behind bars, as far as I know. She got to a certain point in the justice system, and she is, and nothing else has happened now. They're still assessing her case. She was facing up to 2 years in prison just for the graffiti incident. But because of the additional statements that she made to police, I mean, it became much more serious. Let's just take a look at this. This is a Fox 2 news report from a year ago. This will help explain who Randi Nord is and what she has done.
In court after being accused of spray painting racist graffiti at a Jewish center in Royal Oak. But as Nord faces ethnic intimidation and malicious destruction of property charges, information is being revealed about her past.
In March, our officers responded to a 911 call of a fire at a building that housed the Church of Scientology at 12 and Middlebout.
Evidence led police to Nord, who was soon charged with the crime.
This specific suspect was charged with 2 different felonies, given bond that included a tether.
But when swastikas were spray painted recently in Oak Park and the racist graffiti appeared at the Jewish Center in Royal Oak, Farmington Hills police got to work. They realized Nord had cut her tether, and after more investigative work, they would soon link Nord to other Oakland County incidents.
We were able to find her, locate her, and take her into custody within hours after her being identified.
Fox 2 uncovered information about Nord, which reveals the Metro Detroiter is the founder of Geopolitics Alert, independent world news, where she covers U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East with a focus on Yemen. In interviews, she has voiced support for Palestinians. Now police are working to learn more about Nord and how her political views might play a part in crimes she's accused of. As these investigations continue, Farmington Hills police are working to elevate their charges.
And we are currently adding information and other evidence to elevate those original crimes to the ethnic intimidation charge.
Police also believe this case shows just how police work in one city can help solve cases in other jurisdictions.
Anytime we can develop good quality evidence and police work, communicate that with our city, county, state, and local partners, and help them identify individuals for their incidents and ours, it's always a win-win.
And Farmington Hills, Ingrid Kelly, Fox.
With respect to the arson charges, Randi Nord reportedly went into the building with lighter fluid and a one of those what do they call those logs? I just have to turn that audio off. Went into with one of those, what do they call them, Yule logs or whatever? Anyway, one of the logs you buy at like the hardware store, and then it burns for a long time in your fireplace. But that's what she set the fire with. I draw your attention to it because it's an ongoing case. She deserves to have attention drawn to it because she's still in custody. So as part of, due process, it's important to remember when people are still behind bars. But I would say that it's also important because if you go and look at what she has written, where her mind is at, it's concerning. To me, it's concerning. And then when you look at what she actually told police, openly told police, which was presented as evidence in her trial, you can see that she clearly has become radicalized to the point where she wants to start an actual war. So I went back again and I looked at some of the material that she has produced in the past. Not only did she run Geopolitics Alert as an independent media outlet, she also wrote for some other independent, I would say pro-Palestinian, pro-Russian, pro-Venezuelan, pro-Syrian, pro-Yemen media outlets like Mint Press. That's an outlet that hosts a number of journalists like Whitney Webb, for instance. And the material that was posted by Randi Nord on Mint Press has since been left up, even though Mint Press, after these charges, after she was found guilty, Mint Press did issue a statement distancing themselves from Randi Nord and saying that they don't support that kind of activity, but they didn't remove her articles at all. They just took her name off them and left all of the material up on Mint Press. So now you can't really tell what was hers and what isn't. But her perspectives on politics, the world, life, still very much present on their platform. Here she is being interviewed. Well, this is part of a broadcast a podcast that she did with Geopolitics Alert with a couple of her other editors. This goes back a few years, I believe. And in this case, she's talking about Al-Quds, the Al-Quds decision back when Trump was in office. And strangely, she, no fan of Trump, her co-workers, no fan of Trump at the time, very critical of US policy, obviously, anti-imperialist to the core, which I would say is really anti-American, very much on display here. And you can see that Randi Nord just got it in her head that she wants to see the United States fail. And so when this decision on, moving the capital of Israel was made, she said that she was happy to see that the United States was being isolated from other countries. I don't think it's because she was hoping for a change politically. It just becomes blatantly clear after a while that she just really doesn't like the United States. She's anti-American.
It was the December 4th, I think. It was the beginning of the month.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously it's gone. There's UN votes. You have the Organization for Islamic Cooperation vote. Erdogan's on a tirade, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, he's been the loudest voice, basically.
Yeah, he's kind of funny. Watching him get mad about... I mean, I know it's for, like, his base, but it's cool watching him get mad about something decent for once.
Yeah.
He's actually mad at the right thing. I'm never going to turn over on that one and trust him all of a sudden, but...
I like how it's isolating the U.S. even further now, because even their NATO allies are taking a step back and saying this was the wrong decision.
Right.
We're not supporting this.
The point here is that she's just glad to see division between NATO countries. She's glad to see the United States isolated. She wants the United States to lose. And I'm hearing so much of that echo. That's why I'm saying, right? It's okay to criticize your government. I do it a lot, sitting right here. I've said some of the same things that Randi Nord has said, sitting in this chair. I sit in the chair. But there's a line that you don't cross, in my opinion. I don't cross that line because I don't want to tear my country down. But she does. She absolutely does want to tear her country down. Acting as a journalist, I'm not so sure that she ever was a journalist. I would say that Randi Nord is a political activist who writes blogs. And there is a lot of that out there these days. Anybody can do it. So she creates an online entity, a media company of sorts. Just gives it a name, starts producing stuff online. Gives herself some level of credibility. Foreign governments take note. They provide support. You want to talk about infiltration? Maybe you don't have to look as far as you think. One thing to criticize a government, your own government, constructively, and then there's destructively. Maybe some of you are cheering for that. Maybe you want to tear it all down too. I know a lot of you do. I don't. The problem is, you start going down that path, you may end up where Randi Nord has wound up, behind bars. And she was engaging, in my opinion, after reviewing her material, in malicious speech designed to undermine support for the war in Ukraine to undermine support for Israel, not by using truth, but by using malicious speech and posing as a journalist when in fact she is a political activist, always was. And like many others who are engaging in that kind of activity, she has taken advantage of the distrust that developed in mainstream media, between mainstream media and the general public during the pandemic, and even during the rise of Trump, when the mainstream media went after him and attacked him and lied about things. That's why I say don't lie, because if you get caught in a lie, you blow your credibility. The mainstream media has been caught lying. That's why people have lost trust in it. But I keep telling you, open the other eye too. You need to be aware that just because one side's lying to you doesn't mean that the other side isn't. Here's Randi Nord in another interview online. This one going back, I think, might be, well, it's about 3 or 4 years ago, I believe. Timing doesn't really matter. Point is, Randi Nord takes note in this comment about the distrust that the public has in mainstream media, how people don't trust mainstream media. Therefore, people like her, anybody on the other side, can also post lies and people will believe it.
So of course, even if somebody comes out with like a crazy conspiracy website that's clearly not true, people are gonna be more willing to believe that just because they're not, at least they don't think they're being paid off to say these things.
And I keep telling you that there are fake social media sites, fake news sites that are out there. People are feeding you fake information from both sides. And a lot of people are not cluing in because people tend to look at things as black and white, good versus evil, black versus white, up versus down, left versus right. No, 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 no. Shades of gray, lots of different things coming at you. And just because one group or one media outlet is lying to you doesn't mean that the other one's telling you the truth. Here, I can show you an example tonight. I'm pretty sure this is just outright bloody fake. And I'm sure that some people are actually believing this. Here, I'll just pull this down so you can see the actual post on Twitter. This is a post. It says, no, this is not a joke. It says, breaking, NATO has reportedly launched a massive ballistic missile strike on a Russian airbase causing significant damage and casualties. There are unconfirmed reports suggesting, reports suggesting the use of a small nuclear weapon. Really? Do you believe that? From some site or account on X. This guy's site is AKA. I don't know what that video is of. I'm telling you right now that this report of NATO using a nuclear weapon in Russia is fake. It's not true. Don't believe it. Show me some real proof, and that ain't it. There's so much of this stuff out there, folks. Randi Nord knows all about that. And taken very seriously. She has been for some time, being invited to be a guest speaker at many events. I did some digging. Some stuff has been taken down that she had posted before, but guest speaker at some community events. Her opinion seems to matter to a lot of people, and she really does just echo a lot of what I'm hearing from other major online influencers. And as I say, some of the things she said, I've said myself, leveling criticism at our own governments at times. But I really don't agree with her approach or where she comes from or how she's done any of this. I really don't agree with her calls for violence, and I don't agree with her deception, her outright lies, the way that the way she misled people, hurting people, screwing with people's minds. She told police that the reason she spray painted the swastika on the synagogue was, and with the word Azov underneath it, was to undermine support for the war in Ukraine by making it look like someone who supported Ukraine was involved in a hate crime against Jewish people. It was like a sort of a false flag in her own country, which, like she is against Ukraine, so she committed the kind of crime that she was hoping somebody who supported Ukraine would commit. But you see, what's going on in Ukraine isn't that simple, and everybody's calling everybody else Nazis. Well, it's not true. So not only is she writing and influencing people, and she was a rising media personality. You need to clue in, folks, or you're going to lose your country. We're under attack, and you can see it in the streets. Randi Nord, very much in support of what's been going on in the streets. Randi Nord showing up at peace rallies. Oh, calling for peace. Not really. A lot of these people calling for peace, for a ceasefire, only really calling for a ceasefire, in my estimation, because it's strategically advantageous for their side. Some people are legitimately there because they want peace, but really, a lot of people calling for a ceasefire here, a ceasefire there, not just in Gaza, but in Ukraine or whatever. Beware of those people who are calling for peace. They often are not really peace activists at all. In the case of what's going on in Gaza, some of them are at these peace rallies because they want Palestine to be able to strike into Israel and then run away and not suffer any consequences. Punch buggy, no punchbacks, to put it into juvenile terms. Randi Nord, what was she really all about? Well, I'll tell you right there. This is what she told police. Statement to police officer. Nord stated, the whole spray painting thing, that's just one small part. That's more like a propaganda aspect of what I was working on. And then Peltier is the name of the police officer who testified in court, who went on to say that she also told him, I was also trying to work on something to import weapons into Hamtramck, like military-grade weapons from Turkey, Ukraine, Russia, so I could start an actual war in Hamtramck. Randi Nord, no small player. Not the biggest, but was on the rise. Now in custody. How did she commit one of those crimes? She had a tether on because she was under house arrest. She'd cut that thing off and then went and set the arson, set the fire. And then the cops were able to figure out that it was her, and they arrested her for it. Strange thing is, people can't figure this stuff out because everybody views politics through the lens of a cliche. It's always like the left versus the right. It's the communists over on the left and the fascists over on the right, the Nazis. And that's the way people think of things, because everybody still tends to think of things, like I said, left versus right, black versus white, good versus evil, etc. No. There has been a convergence. I keep telling everyone there has been a convergence. Communo-fascism. There are other words for it. People like Jackson Hinkle, you'll refer to it as MAGA communism. That is what I would say is infiltration within the MAGA movement. Populist movement, so you're drawing people from across the political spectrum. And what you have in there is actual communists within the Trump MAGA Republican movement, at least extreme socialists. They're in there. Make no mistake. In fact, as much as Randi Nord was criticizing Trump in that podcast with her two colleagues, over time, it appears that she drifted into the Trump camp somehow, either wittingly or unwittingly. Intentionally or unintentionally. She just ended up over there, either by her own will or just by happenstance. And people took note. Here's a social media post referring to her after her charges and so on. It says on March 7th, 2020, Randi Nord was a guest speaker on Cindy Sheehan's Soapbox, billed as one of the 10 women of uncompromising ethics and clarity. Randi Nord occupied spaces from red to brown to green, an equal opportunity anti-imperialist. That's anti-American, folks, if you haven't figured that out. Anti-Western really is what it is. She was, get this, she was a MAGA communist before they called them MAGA communists. Now, I can tell you that originally, even though I've been using the phrase communo-fascist for quite some time, the first time I heard MAGA communist, I laughed. I said, how can that be a thing? When Trump stands up at the podium and literally says that he is opposed to communism and fascism, calls them out and calls for the elimination of both to fight back against them, and yet we have MAGA communists literally using the term. And here is that quote about Randi Nord, again, close up. She is described as a MAGA communist. And clarity, Randi Nord occupied spaces from red to brown to green, an equal opportunity, anti-imperialist, anti-American. She was a MAGA communist before they called them MAGA communists. Nationalism. You see, Trump is a nationalist. The Trump movement, MAGA, is a nationalist movement. It has been from the beginning. But nationalism comes in various flavors, varying shades of nationalism. Some people want that nationalism socialized. Trump, in his first term, tried to act like a conservative, wound up acting more like a classical liberal. Economically, certainly just continued the march forward in the corporate reality that we are all in, and the it's a form of capitalism. I would call it a corporatocracy that has been developed over time, and deficit spending and money printing, especially during the pandemic. But anyway, the point is, you have MAGA communists within the MAGA movement. Randi Nord among them. I would say that they're not so much MAGA. She, though, I wouldn't say she's a communist. She's more on the fascist side. And that's where you find the convergence. Why do I say she's more on the fascist side? Because the actual communists, the details, the ideology is just a little bit different. And we will get into that in, other nights. But her flavor of nationalism is really about socialism, but it also has an ethnic component to it. That's why she's anti-Israel, anti-imperialist, anti-capitalist, anti-American. And there's a lot of that going around right now. This is just my opinion. You can have yours. I'll have mine. I've been sitting here pretty consistently, at times criticizing the government, but always saying, I don't want to tear my country down. I just want to fix some of the problems that we have. And I don't want any of these other countries like China, Russia, India, Venezuela even, Cuba. I don't want them to be our enemies. I would like to improve relations with them. But I'm not into capitulation. I'm not into surrender. Nor am I into aggressive attacks, but I'll sure as heck defend this country. That's what I'm doing here every night. You think I've been sitting here virtually every night with no nights off since, I can't even know how many years it's been now. Since the convoy in Ottawa. I'm here trying to save the country by bringing the country back, restoring the country, because I see that it has been infiltrated, that we do have traitors among us. And I know that we just did that big interview, Name the Names. I think that's a valid call, request. I said, if you go and ask your member of parliament questions about it, I think, and record the video, do it respectfully. That's what your member of parliament is there for. Go to an event, stand up at the microphone when they have Q&A and ask your MP, where do you stand on naming the names of these people who apparently are being influenced by foreign governments, named in these security reports that were talked about in these sessions in Ottawa, these public hearings. But of course, we're not being given all of the information. Yeah, you're totally entitled to do that. Don't get crazy with them. You can be a citizen journalist of sorts if you want. Anybody can. That's what your member of parliament is there for. That it's their job to talk to you if you're one of their constituents. So go to one of their events. Walk up and say, hello, Mr. MP or Miss MP or whatever. I have a question for you. Where do you stand on what are you doing for healthcare locally? What are you doing on this issue and that issue? And what about this security breach that we seem to have? Where do you stand on naming the members of parliament who have been identified in these security reports as being either compromised either wittingly or unwittingly? Not my words, the words in the words from CSIS at the RCMP. Totally valid thing to do. Do not get me wrong. I am not advocating for anybody to go up there and get aggressive or get up in anybody's face or even do any secret recordings. You don't need to do a secret recording. Just walk up with your phone and make it known to the member of parliament that you'd like to record the interaction. I encourage transparency and honesty, and just be honest about it, just straight up. And we'll run the videos right here. I haven't had anybody send me one since we first talked about that the other night. And I know that a lot of people are out there right now saying, we need to root out those traitors. We need to find out who the infiltrators are. Who's working against our government? I want to know, because why? I want to restore our government. I've been telling everyone that's where the real threat lies. The threat is within our government. It is. So people are confused. They're listening to people like Randi Nord, who do nothing but criticize our government all day, all night, every day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Just tear it all down. It's craziness. Democracy doesn't work, so we just have to get rid of democracy. Our democracy isn't working, so just get rid. No, I want to fix it. I don't want to tear it all down. And what is the lesson to be learned? What's the takeaway from what I've just been talking about here? You want to find the infiltrators? You want to find the people who are really the greatest threat to us? You don't have to look very far. Just look at her. She's the threat. People like her are the threat. And then I would suggest that we all need to sit back, take a deep breath, clear our minds, and then ask ourselves, what do I think? What's in my mind? Really? I would encourage everyone to just pause, engage in a little bit of reflection. Randi Nord should have done that a long time ago. She went to Serbia. She was apparently really went through a radicalization process during her visit to Serbia. We don't know everything that happened with her over there, but if you're at the point like she was, maybe still is, the point where you want to get military-grade weapons to start a war in your hometown, I think maybe you've got a problem. That's why they've engaged in a psychiatric assessment for her, but I would submit she's not crazy. She's just had her head filled with a lot of really bad ideas, wrong think, radical political ideology, hatred, and yeah, some just straight outright lies. Lies that she perpetuated, lies that she distributed, lies that served as inspiration for more lies that she created herself. Lies that were all still being fed online every single day. Lies wrapped around nuggets of truth to make them seem much more credible than they ought to. Be careful, folks. There's a war on for your mind, and I fear we're losing. I'll be right back.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
We're going to talk more about that stuff in the days ahead. I'm sure of it, because there's just going to be more of that stuff coming out, and it is, it's a concern for me. It needs more attention. Who else I'm kind of zeroed in on tonight? I have been for the last few days, is RFK Jr. His campaign, man. You want a case study in how to not run a presidential campaign? That's it. Right there. RFK Jr. is bleeding support. Key people leaving his side. It has got to be beyond embarrassing. His campaign faltering. What has been, driving the headlines on the RFK Jr. side? Nothing positive. First, it was, when I say first, just in the latest round of information through news cycles, the RFK ate a dog narrative. Oh, before that, it was the brain worm. I guess you can't really hold that entirely against the guy. If you get a worm in your brain, what are you going to do? And if the media gets a hold of it, well, that's not your fault. But the dog eating thing, I don't know. It wasn't a dog, it was a goat. Was it? I don't know. It looked like a dog. And then just of late, it's been it was the bear dumping, the roadkill that he picked up, the dead bear picked up at the side of the road, threw it in his vehicle, then later has decided against skinning it and cutting it up for the meat, and took it to Central Park in New York and dumped it, along with a bicycle, which was garbage, that someone had given him to dispose of, and he thought it would be a joke that would be funny because he thought it would make it look like the bear had been run over by a bicycle. I wouldn't even think that if I saw a bicycle laying beside a dead bear, but that's what he thought. Had he been caught at the time, and this was 10 years ago, he would have faced charges, but now the statute of limitations is protecting him, so charges can't be laid because too much time has gone past. It's just outright weird. Why am I bringing this up? Because now it just seems like he's losing key support from key people, even people who are very close to him. I mean, you look back at the process that he went through to select his running mate, and he ended up with Shanahan, but he was looking at Jesse Ventura. I thought that was funny. I thought it could be like, I said, then Trump should choose Hulk Hogan. And then we could have like a wrestling match on the debate stage, right? And they could smash the furniture and pick up the lecterns and smash those down on the stage. I thought it would be hilarious. But, and Jesse Ventura came out and endorsed RFK Jr. And I remember people, Jesse Ventura would be a great choice. And then it was Nicole Shanahan and people are like, who the heck is she? Do you even hear about her? Rarely. I rarely ever hear anything about her. I went online at one point, looked up some stuff that she was talking about, and she was doing some podcast about, I don't know, it was like natural food or something or whatever. It was like hippy dippy stuff. And I thought, you have a limited amount of time and this is what you're spending your time online doing. Anyway, it just seemed weird to me. That was weird too. And here's Jesse Ventura now. He ain't talking about RFK Jr. This is a guy who was on the short list to be RFK Jr.'s running mate. And now he has switched camps. I'm saying RFK Jr. is bleeding support. Look at this.
I'm going to be selfish. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to see the United States elect its first black president. I didn't think that could ever happen, and they even re-elected him. Well, now I'm going to be selfish again. I've only got a few elections to go. I'm 73 years old now, so the window's closing. I want to be alive to see the first woman president of the United States of America and the first woman commander-in-chief, and we've got her right now.
Governor, thank you so much for sharing your views on this issue. I think a lot of people have been very interested to hear what you have said. So you are officially endorsing the Harris-Walz ticket, excuse me.
Yes, I want to see a woman president. It's time for a woman president. We men have screwed it up enough. And
so much for RFK Jr. There's a guy who, what would he have done if he had been chosen as the VP running mate, and then Biden drops out, and now you have Harris with Walz? Would he have stopped being RFK Jr.'s running mate and gone over to endorse Harris and Walz? If you can't even hold the support of a guy who is so close, so adored, so trusted, so impressive to you that you were considering him to be your vice presidential running mate, if you can't keep his support, a guy who actually stood up on a podium, on a stage at a podium and endorsed RFK Jr. earlier, and now he's left RFK. What is going on over there? It actually started, I think, some months ago, maybe 2 months ago or so, when this was going on with Alex Jones. You know, Alex Jones was saying, I like RFK, I like Trump too. I like Trump, and I like RFK Jr. too. I really like, but then something happened, and Alex Jones went mental. What do you mean went? Anyway, you know what I'm saying. He lost it, and at least where RFK Jr. was concerned, and he declared total war on RFK Jr. And I guess maybe he saw the writing on the wall and then decided to do some writing of his own to contribute to the RFK Jr. mess.
So I pledge to you total attack on RFK Jr. starting tomorrow. You got what you want. You're getting it now. With your plastic chickens and your libertarians and all the rest of it. So I pledge.
Yeah, that's what he said back then. Remember the rubber chickens? That was when Trump went to speak at the Libertarian Convention, and RFK Jr. had been there as well. So they had all the libertarians there, and they didn't like Trump. So if I remember correctly, they handed out these rubber chickens, and they were squeaking them in order to be disruptive. But then the Secret Service ended up taking the rubber chickens away from the people in the audience, the libertarians. From the very beginning, RFK Jr. he's really engaged in a lot of complaining. Can't get, Secret Service support. Can't get media traction. Can't get interviews. Well, yeah. Welcome to the abnormal campaign of 2024. Nothing's normal about this. The Democrats didn't want him, even though he was a lifelong supporter of the Democrats. Media doesn't want him. Trump, they don't want Trump either. But Trump, he complains, but he soldiers through. RFK Jr., he doesn't seem to have the stamina or the political force behind him, the momentum to withstand the attacks and the suppression. Here he is on Fox, sort of the only mainstream media outlet that seems willing to give him, any real amount of airtime. Here he is explaining or complaining again about not being able to get enough attention through mainstream media.
You know, as you can say, I've got the entire media, kind of this monolithic media that is aligned with the DNC, telling Americans every single day that I can't win, and then denying me the ability. This is the only network, major network, that allows me to do interviews like this one. I've done a total of 4 interviews on all the other networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, in 19 months, 4 interviews. Ross Perot was on TV every single night. And they're telling Americans every day that I can't win. So we didn't have that kind of alignment with the political parties that we now have. You know, as you can say, I've got the entire media, kind of this monolithic media, that is aligned with the DNC, telling Americans every single day that I can't win, and then denying me the ability. This is the only network, major network, that allows me to do interviews like this one. I've done a total of 4 interviews on all the other networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, MSNBC, in 19 months, 4 interviews. Ross Perot was on TV every single night. And they're telling Americans every day that I can't win. So we didn't have that kind of alignment with the political parties that we now have. You know, as you can say, I've got the entire media, kind of this.
So there's that. And yes, even our friend Laurie Spencer, I'm told, has left the Kennedy camp. I don't know how that happened. Lifelong supporter. She said she waited her whole life to see him run. Apparently a close personal friend, and yet I'm told she wants no part of the campaign anymore and is now endorsing Trump. And I do see comments in there, people asking, where's Laurie? Well, see, around here at Maverick News, we don't endorse any candidates. And so Laurie's taking just a little bit of a break because she has been endorsing candidates. So we just had a discussion, and in the interest of maintaining impartiality and objectivity and to maintain journalistic standards, at least the kind of standards that I want employed here, she just isn't contributing here the way that she was before. Not to say that she couldn't come back and participate in discussions, but she's not currently a Maverick News contributor. And that is what is going on with Laurie, to explain to those of you who maybe are not aware. So that's what it is. It's just an editorial policy that we have here. We don't endorse candidates on Maverick News. Even when we were providing coverage of Kennedy events, I also ran Trump events, and just the other night I was running some live stream footage from the Harris Walls speeches. So we will provide coverage across the board, and I'm an equal opportunity criticizer. I will criticize as I see fit, but we're not officially endorsing any candidates here. I don't think it's appropriate for a news organization to do that. Now, you do see some newspapers come out, and the editorial board of a newspaper will often come out and endorse a candidate. And we do have our bias here, our leanings, but I'm not actively working for any candidate, any campaign. We don't have any money coming in from any of those campaigns. So we're a news organization, and that's also why, honestly, we struggle, because we're not taking political money. We don't take money from foreign governments. We're not taking any money from political parties. We don't get monetized from YouTube. It's you guys that keep us going here. It's really just that simple. Without your support, we can't pay the bills. I'm so incredibly grateful for the support that you guys have provided, and I just can't say thank you enough. That being said, let's run the Trump t-shirt promo, shall we?
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight for freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from, but there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech, free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Okay. Also trying to navigate, information coming out of Gaza, trying to navigate information coming out of Ukraine. We have more information on both fronts tonight to share with you. The United States has come out to be critical of allegations of the sexual abuse of Palestinian prisoners by members of the Israeli military, described as horrific now by the United States. Matthew Miller, speaking on behalf of the State Department, in a recent interview, says that he says they've seen the video and the reports of sexual abuse of detainees are horrific. That's his words. Miller went on, adding that the reports should be fully investigated by the Israeli government. I know that an investigation has commenced over there. How appropriate the how fair? Is it a proper investigation? I don't know. And I've seen reports saying that the allegations have fallen apart, too. We ran a clip with Caroline Glick with that suggestion the other night. Where is the truth? We're just going to have to wait for the proper information to come out, in my view. I'm seeing a lot of propaganda out there about it, and I'm sure that there's some truth on both sides when it comes to that. The prisoner, the Palestinian prisoner, sustained serious injuries, broken ribs, as I understand it, also ruptured bowel. The allegation is that he was gang raped or sodomized. The counter allegation is that the prisoner had inserted a cell phone in his own rectum. I don't know how believable that is in an attempt to conceal it. But I'll tell you, the pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli, anti-Zionists out there have gone to town with that one. They're making the most of that on the information warfare front. Make no mistake of that. I'm just looking at that site, actually. That showed us that apparent nuclear explosion. I'm just seeing what else they have on there. Yeah, it's full of fake crap. Let's just take a quick look at it. I'm afraid to show it because we'll get our channel banned if we show you that crap. Just if you want to go look at it, I showed you the the X page. He's got just so much junk. Outright lies, one after another. Some of it just blatant. All very weird stuff. So anyway, that's what's going on over there. And then in Gaza, in Ukraine, Ukrainian troops pushing into Russian territory, right into Russia. And apparently overnight there was an attempt to launch an attack into Crimea, which is, I guess, once I would argue that it's Russian territory now. The Ukrainians would argue that it's occupied. It's Ukrainian occupied territory, occupied by the Russians. Anyway, they sent some boats into Crimea. 3 boats were intercepted by Russians, though, overnight and were destroyed. 12 troops were killed. We do have video, but this shows 2 things in my view. On the one hand, you have Russia releasing this footage of these boats being destroyed. I think in their view, it shows that their defenses are effective. On the other hand, to me, it's also showing that Ukraine is not giving up, and they are maybe even gaining ground in some areas. And with regard to Crimea, it's a key target, especially that bridge. And here is what happened with this latest attempt to get some troops into Crimea that failed. And you can see this footage, and you see the Sputnik News logo on the top right-hand corner. Aerial footage. And you see the targets being taken out. But yeah, it's this is not over. Far from it. And even though they got those boats, like I say, it just shows Ukraine not done. And yet I'm seeing on Sputnik tonight stories and suggesting the opposite. In fact, the headline I'm looking at right now says Ukraine losing battle to recruit new cannon fodder for NATO proxy war. So fair enough, I guess, if you're working for Sputnik and that's the headline. I would say there's clear bias there and also some truth in what they're reporting. I think both sides are having trouble recruiting people who want to go to war. Not a first choice for a lot of people, period. I wouldn't be too enthusiastic about going off to fight in a war. But it says here, a drastic shortage of manpower in the Ukrainian army has hounded the Kiev regime to such an extent that it has not only tightened its mobilization rules, but shown willingness to recruit deserters and convicted felons. Yeah, same thing on the Russian side. That's a fact, Jack. Yes. Commonly done in times of war. Make a deal with some prisoners who would otherwise never get out of jail. Make a deal. You get out and fight, and we'll give you your freedom back. Speaking of politics, just to circle back into the presidential race, who's supporting Harris? Well, they've got that whole weird campaign, right? I'll suggest to you that what you're about to see shows that a lot of Harris supporters are weird. If they want to find weird, all they have to do is maybe look in the mirror or just look to their left, and they'll see weird right next to them among their own supporters. They don't need to look over to the MAGA camp. Here's what I'm talking about. Here are a couple of Harris supporters being interviewed.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris? It's ridiculous how anymore it's really hard for people like us, like queer people, and just anyone else in that um, general umbrella. Thank you. General umbrella. It's just really hard for us to get rights, and with how the Republicans are handling everything, it's just putting more and more stress on us, like basically taking away everything we have. And it's just important that we feel safe just even living here, because everyone's been wanting to like leave the country, and this is like the only chance we have to properly fix everything.
What about you?
I would definitely say that I want to keep my rights. I really do. As a queer individual and someone who's physically disabled, and may not like be able to do certain things, I feel like they probably wouldn't have accommodations for someone like me, especially given that I like women as a woman. I want to keep access to my bank accounts. I would like to keep making money. I don't want to be some man's object. I really don't. It's the whole thing with Project 2025 is terrifying. I read through some of it and it was just insane. It's bad.
Paranoid much? Trump's going to take away your bank account? I don't know, man. I don't think that's going to happen. We're going to get into the Project 2025 thing another night. We'll go through it. I've glanced at it. I don't know everything that's in it. And Trump isn't saying he's actually going to adopt all of that stuff. It comes from people within the Heritage Foundation. So I know that it's basically pro-family conservative political planks. But how extreme is it? I don't know. I'm going to read it and then we'll look at it. Here's a trans man who says, I'm gay and I have been pregnant and had an abortion before and don't want to lose the right to do that. So a trans man got pregnant? I'm thinking this has to be the opposite. It has to be a biological woman who, I'm going to choose words that are not correct here, I'm sure. It has to be someone who's born biologically a woman who would then have the ability to get pregnant biologically, but identifies as a trans man. So it's like a double reverse negative thing. In order to be a trans man, but you're actually born a woman identifying as a trans man. So you're like a double quadruple personality thingy, I guess. I don't understand it. But I can't even keep all the letters straight, to be honest. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I really can't. So I don't really understand. But this doesn't seem normal to me. Whatever normal is, I said at the beginning of the program, nothing is normal. This doesn't seem normal. This is not normal politics. This is abnormal, man. This is weird to me. The Democrats want weird? It's right here.
Why are y'all voting for Kamala Harris?
I don't want to lose my rights. Like, I'm a trans man and I'm gay and I have been pregnant and I've had an abortion before and I don't want to lose that. I'm afraid of not being able to be myself anymore because from what I've heard, Trump's America doesn't want me to look like this. So that's why I'm here today and that's why I'm voting blue.
What about you?
I've also been pregnant and had an abortion before. I was a minor and it would have been dangerous for me to properly, it would have been dangerous for me to carry a baby with personal reasons and everything. I also I'm very, alternative, and I feel like if Trump were to win, I wouldn't be able to express myself through my looks and everything, and wouldn't be able to have the piercings or the dyed hair or the tattoos that I want. I would be able to be myself, and my dad's very pro-Trump, and I'm just very
pro-Kamala.
Pro-Kamala, yeah. I don't, it's just...
Does that cause a divide at all?
Yeah, it definitely does. He thinks that Kamala's going to ruin the country, but I think that Trump would do worse, a lot. Kamala is going to be good for the country.
the whole abortion thing, it's referred to so casually. What has happened to our society where life is just, there's no respect for life there, in my view. And that girl's so young, and to just speak about it so casually. Not only was the abortion tragic, the mindset just as tragic.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
He's a fighter. He's a survivor. President Trump, defiant, strong. He is determined to make America great again. Pay tribute to the 45th President of the United States with this collectible t-shirt from the Maverick News Memorable Moments collection. Even a would-be assassin's bullet could not stop him. Instead, he emerged with his fist in the air ready to fight for freedom. Get your Trump Fighting for Freedom t-shirt with any donation of $30 or more to Maverick News. There are 2 iconic artistic designs to choose from, but there is only one way to get these. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Support free speech, free media. Support Maverick News. Call 1-866-248-1490 or order online at supergeeks.tv.
Now, talk about fake news. I'll tell you, I'm seeing that story about NATO striking inside Russia with a nuke. I'm seeing it spread now on X, and I'm still saying I see no actual evidence of that having happened. Whatever that explosion is that they're showing us, I don't think there's any credibility to this at all. That would, for me, and I'll call this out right now, if you are getting news from this source, and I'll bring it up. Here it is. U.S. Civil Defense News. They're running it. Same video with their own take on the caption. And if you're getting news from that, I think you should maybe check your mind, because I think it's being filled with propaganda. What's this? Readers added context. This is a secondary explosion of an ammunition depot at the Russian Morovsk military air base caused by an attack of the Ukrainian forces. I think that happened 2 days ago. Ukraine is not a member of NATO, nor does it have nuclear weapons. True. In fact, they gave up nuclear weapons after the fall of the Soviet Union as part of the Budapest Agreement, which was supposed to guarantee Ukrainian sovereignty, because the United States and Russia agreed that they would never invade that they would always respect Ukraine's borders, and that's why Ukraine gave up their nukes. Because there were nukes there when the Soviet Union fell inside Ukrainian territory, but Ukraine let them go in order to provide stability to the region. And that is one of the key issues in play that really nobody talks about it. We've mentioned it here, but that is one of the key issues. People say, you know, so-and-so knows their, if you really want to get into history, there's history. And the history that Tucker Carlson was given, the history lesson that he was given, that was selective history. And he went in there ill-prepared for the history that was literally handed to him in documents. You know, there was no counter questioning at all, because he was like a deer caught in the headlights when Putin gave him that little history lesson. But you know, when it comes to something like justifying a special military operation, you're going to pick and choose the information that you focus on, like any government at any time. Go back and look at any conflict in history, and that's what every government always does. Oh, yeah, I know. People like Randy Nord will criticize till they're blue in the face their own government for doing it, but every government does it. Put it into context and perspective, folks. It's difficult to be a journalist, too, because you never know what's going to be thrown at you in an interview. So I don't mean to be overly critical of Tucker Carlson. A lot of pressure on him when he went over there to interview Putin. But that's the way that it was. Oh, man. Oh, did you see this story about the Olympic athletes? They're resorting to OnlyFans to survive. Here, let me show you. I don't have it up, but I'm going to find it for you. I thought it was kind of an interesting story. I hope I can find it here. Basically, what it comes down to is they're saying that the Olympic system needs to change because the athletes are impoverished. They have trouble making ends meet. So some of them are OnlyFans personalities, I guess. Here it is here. Olympians are turning to OnlyFans to fund dreams as they face a broken finance system. Olympians are supposed to be amateur athletes, at least that's the way it was. Not so much these days, it's huge business. But right here, Olympians are turning to OnlyFans to fund dreams as they face a broken finance system, right there. So dire financial straits are leading droves of Olympic athletes to sell images of their bodies to subscribers on OnlyFans, known for sexually explicit content, to sustain their dreams of gold at the Games. As they struggle to make ends meet, a spotlight is being cast on an Olympics funding system that watchdog groups condemn as broken, claiming most athletes can barely pay their rent. I expect that's probably true. Although some do, I think, get endorsements and other kind of work if they are successful as athletes and they get some profile going out there. But after the Olympics, I think a lot of the different athletes from various sports fade into the background again, because a lot of these sports would not otherwise get a lot of media attention, a lot of attention period from the public. Like, I mean, how often do people watch like the high jump? You know, it's hockey, baseball, football, soccer, you know, and then all the other sports out there don't really get that much. Well, cricket's big around the world, but it says here the entire funding model for Olympic sport is broken. The IOC generates now over $1.7 billion per year, and they refuse to pay athletes who attend the Olympics. Well, if you pay the athletes, then they're professionals. And the Olympics is supposed to be for amateur sports. That's the way it was before. I remember a lot of controversy surrounding things like endorsements for athletes, whether they should be allowed to take the money or not take the money. Because if you start taking money, it starts becoming a paid thing. It changes the fabric of the sport. Everything going on in the background, it becomes more corruptible. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on it one way or the other. On the other hand, you're really trying to bring forth, the best of the best of the best of the best. Isn't that really what the Olympics is supposed to be about? But is it really appropriate to, like in the Winter Olympics, I think they have professional hockey players now competing in the Winter Olympics, but that was not always the case. And we're seeing in that story that some of these Olympians are, doing nude stuff and sexually explicit stuff on OnlyFans. But I think that part of that is changing community standards, which we just showed you in those weird political videos where references are being made to, to abortion. I'm a trans man and I was pregnant and I had an abortion. I don't even understand what that means. I'm a trans man and I got pregnant and I had an abortion. That to me is weird. I'm sorry, that's weird. That's like a mind thing, and that's weird. But changing community standards, that's sort of also the point, right? It's not just because they don't have money. It's because it's just more normalized. And I think in the eyes of a growing number of people, it's just more acceptable. And so these athletes with these, finely tuned bodies, frankly, well conditioned to, I guess, it's, you know what I'm saying. They're going to look good in their pictures. You're not going to get a lot of beer bellies, right? Unless maybe it's the sumo wrestlers. Is that a sport in the Olympics? I'm not an expert. It's changing community standards more than anything else. And a loss of a moral compass as well, I would say. It truly is a brave new world out there. It really, really is. Okay, so I've got this Nixon thing. Do you want to close with the Nixon thing tonight, or do you want to hear about the frozen head story last tonight? I'm going to go to the chat. What do you want to close off with tonight, folks? Frozen head, closer, or Nixon? I say frozen head. Frozen head. We're going to close with the frozen head. Okay, give me a quick break. We're going to come back and do Nixon in a moment.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
Okay, it is the anniversary. We're actually technically it was a day ago. The anniversary was yesterday, but I'm still going to bring this to everyone's attention because it was August 9th, 1974, when President Richard Nixon delivered his farewell address to his staff just before his resignation was to take effect. You know, big milestones in history that we should always take note of. This being one of them. JFK assassination, that's one. The attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump being another. Nixon, Watergate, and this moment. $14. 50 years ago, half a century has passed. I can't believe it. I remember this. I'm so old. Half a century ago. In the before times. When things seemed more normal, and yet when you look back, there was a lot of turmoil, a lot of chaos, instability even then. Back in the 1970s. Of course, as much as people were concerned about things like the Vietnam War in the 60s and 70s, they were also very concerned about disco. So concerned, some people remember Death Before Disco. Maybe you don't remember, I certainly do. Bell bottoms and Watergate. Watergate. Ask Roger Stone, Trump's staunch supporter. There's a guy who won't leave Trump's side. Roger Stone, as people are running away from RFK Jr., and I would say there's more going on there, folks, than meets the eye. More going on behind the scenes than we know. I don't think Jesse Ventura left RFK Jr. just because he wants a female president. Something else happening. And there was a lot going on with Nixon. But I think in the case of Nixon, like Trump, there was media bias, and they were out to get him. And back in that time, things were just a little bit different. No social media yet. And you have to remember, they didn't remove him from office. He resigned for the good of the country. Here he is with his farewell, the end of his farewell address to his staffers. Maybe something we can take away from this tonight.
We think sometimes when things happen that don't go the right way, we think that when you don't pass the bar exam the first time, I happened to, but I was just lucky. I mean, my writing was so poor, the bar examiner said we just got to let the guy through.
Even then, he still had a sense of humor.
We think that when someone dear to us dies, we think that when we lose an election, we think that when we suffer a defeat, that all is ended. We think, as TR said.
You ready?
Hang on. Here we go.
That the light had left his life forever. Not true. It's only a beginning, always. The young must know it. The old must know it. It must always sustain us. Because the greatness comes not when things go always good for you, but the greatness comes and you're really tested when you take some knocks, some disappointments, when sadness comes. Because only if you've been in the deepest valley can you ever know how magnificent it is to be on the highest mountain. And so I say to you on this occasion, we leave proud of the people who have stood by us and worked for us and served this country. We want you to be proud of what you've done. We want you to continue to serve in government if that is your wish. Always give your best. Never get discouraged. Never be petty. Always remember, others may hate you, but those who hate you don't win unless you hate them. And then you destroy yourself. And so we leave with high hopes, in good spirit, and with deep humility, and with very much gratefulness in our hearts. I can only say to each and every one of you, we come from many faiths. We pray perhaps to different gods, but really the same God in a sense. But I want to say for each and every one of you, not only will we always remember you, not only will we always be grateful to you, but always you will be in our hearts and you will be in our prayers. Thank you very much.
"50 years ago. Boy, things changed then too, didn't they? And there was Nixon. You know, the really unfortunate thing is that there were some things that Nixon did that I think were quite good. As I say all the time, it's not black and white, it's shades of gray. There's good and there's bad in everything. And in his case, I think all that people remember is Tricky Dicky. And that's what politics has come down to today as well, right? The weirdo campaign and the name calling from Trump on the other side. Pejoratives just being thrown around, insults, juvenile schoolyard tactics. In Canada and the US. Wacko Trudeau. I don't think that gets us closer to any solutions, but that's the way it is. Let's lighten things up. Let's talk about somebody's decapitated frozen head on the other side of this.
You know, someone very profoundly once said many years ago that if fascism ever comes to America, it'll come in the name of liberalism.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on Earth.
The entire world is watching.
Every dictator, every crazy dictator in the world is watching. The world is watching. On TV, the entire world is watching. On social media.
But the entire world is watching, and yes, they are seeing what we have apparently bravely been willing to say that others are thinking.
Stand for freedom.
literally stand for freedom. Let's get this done. The entire world is watching.
We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars.
Maverick News. Maverick News. Maverick News.
Let me have more control of my own destiny.
The world is watching.
You know what? We're going to do this whole Truspiracies thing, and we're going to get into this frozen head story. But I have more, because I have to tell you, I went into the future and I obtained next week's news on that day, as I often do, using my time travel machine to the local pharmacy. And and I came out with the National Enquirer, which has all the real news in it. And this is actually the stuff you can believe. Unfortunately, I think there's more truth in that than we know. And I've got the news of the future here in my hands. I'm going to share it with you in a full-blown Truspiracy segment now, not just with one story about the frozen head, but with a bunch of stories that are so real that they are unbelievable. Okay, so I would show you the attack by NATO in Russia and run that as part of the Truspiracies thing too, but it's we already did it, and it ain't true. The explosion is real, the attack was real, but it was Ukraine, not NATO, and it wasn't a nuke. But anyway, we have other stuff too. You want to know what really happened in the Trump shooting? So do I. That's why I have the National Enquirer here for this Truspiracy segment. Let's fast forward. We'll get to the frozen head in a moment. Okay, where's the truth about the Trump shooting? Come on. We also have people being ambushed by a swarm of spiders coming up. We have some Hollywood celebs who passed away that we'll tell you about. But first, blood and defiance. So what really happened? Were there multiple shooters? Lucky Trump dodges bullet, it says here. Shots rang out on a sunny summer day in Pennsylvania, bullets streaking through the air to shatter the sanctity of all Americans, even though they only nicked their intended target. Former President Donald Trump. Assassination has scarred our political landscape in the past, but it has been more than 40 years since a deranged gunman nearly killed President Ronald Reagan. On July 13th, during a campaign rally like countless others, a lone shooter came within millimeters. We know all this. Let's get to the meat of the matter, folks. Now we've got this as the center spread. How law enforcement ignored the Trump shooter. Well, we saw that body cam footage that we ran here the other night. Local police weren't ignoring him. They were aware, and they were trying to get an officer up on the roof. They were trying to confront the guy. And yes, they were upset because the Secret Service stated so in that video. You can hear them clearly criticizing, being upset with the Secret Service because they said that there was supposed to be somebody stationed on that roof, and there wasn't. Big time fail. Heads will roll. And we have literally that coming up. So don't go away. We literally have a head rolling. Literally. So what's this saying here? The shooter was registered Republican, but had donated $15 to a liberal political action committee on the same day President Joe Biden was sworn into office. His social media output was minimal. The guy's a ghost who kept to himself, according to an insider who shall remain nameless. It's likely we'll never know for sure what drove this young man to try to commit a historic murder. Yeah, well, I've been saying people are being radicalized, right? In a variety of ways. I showed you a guy a couple of nights ago. You could see it in his eyes. I just showed you another journalist activist, whatever, who wanted to bring weapons. I've shown you other people too. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is what's going on. People are being radicalized, including shooter Thomas Crooks. See there, the guy with the glasses? But now he's dead. They talk here about the, cops taking note of Crooks, but the bottom line is, it's right here in the last quote of this article. It says, from this source, there's a lot of people covering their butts right now, according to the insider, who shall remain nameless. No one wants to take responsibility. Yeah. Modern Family Vixen's secret war exposed. Who are these? Sofia Vergara? I know, I've seen her around. She's been around for quite a while. She's getting up there. And Julie Bowen won 2 Emmy Awards for Modern Family, but hasn't had a big showbiz success since. There they are. Who's that? New marriage flop flips out Christina. That's a Christina Hall. Nah, I'm not interested. Don't worry, the frozen head is coming up. We're going to get to it. Clueless Kim lacks material instinct. What is it with the Kardashians? I don't even get the Kardashians. And there's so much celebrity news in these tabloids. Motherhood is murder on Kim Kardashian. The prefab femme fatale recently said her 43rd birthday last October was ruined because she had to keep an eye on her 4 kids when all she wanted was to partay. I thought my birthday, I'd have the day to myself, Kim carped about her kids on her show. Oh, shut up. She's complaining because she has to take care of her kids. I don't even want to read anymore. I just don't want to hear about it. These rich, like she couldn't afford a nanny. Pacino working himself to death. Oh, poor Al Pacino. He's working himself to death. Fear of gravestone keeps his nose to the grindstone. Wheezy Al Pacino continues to work at a breakneck pace at the ripe old age of 84, and sources spill the icon has no intention of slowing down because losing so many friends has put the fear of death into him. This year alone, Al said aloha to 2 of his longtime pals, Godfather producer Al Ruddy and Godfather 2 producer Fred Roos. And 2 years ago, he was dismayed by the death of his good buddy and Godfather brother James Caan. Sources say panicked Pacino now feels like he's staring into the abyss. Al's lost a lot of close friends and associates in recent years. One thing he's never been able to come to terms with is getting old and dying. For Al, asking him how old he is, it's like an insult, confides an insider who shall remain nameless. All they do is cite unnamed sources constantly. Oh, if only I'd been able to write stories like this when I was working in mainstream media. It was like, you didn't use unnamed sources, like ever. The Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, according to an unnamed source. Right. Yeah. I mean, he said back when the Nord Stream pipeline blew up. I mean, obviously, it's got to be the US or the UK or the Ukraine or, I don't think the Russians did it to themselves. Some people would have us believe that, but I don't believe that. Who was ultimately responsible? I don't know. I know that there's a big insurance claim cooking on that. Huge insurance claim, and the companies don't want to pay out. They're saying it was an act of war, so they shouldn't have to. I don't know. I'm not sure where that whole thing stands. We'll have to look into that another night in more depth. That was, I really seriously doubt that's been resolved. Now there's a Meghan Markle thing. No, I don't care about that either. Okay, let's get back to the beginning. We're gonna get to that that decapitated head. Oh, here's Rudy Giuliani. Former NYC Mayor Rudy Giuliani's bankruptcy case was tossed out by a judge who ruled he was dodging delivering financial docs. Rudy filed for Chapter 11 after two election workers won a $148 million defamation case against him. Yeah, that's actually old news. And actually, I have to confess that even though I went into the future and got this National Enquirer before it was news, the actual date on this one is now August 5th. But I'm bringing you the undated stories. But I got it well in advance of the 5th because I drove 88 miles per hour in my Volkswagen, which I had to fix today because the exhaust fell off the darn thing. So I spent not most of my day. I spent about an hour laying under the car in my driveway fixing the exhaust. I have such a glamorous life of a online media celebrity. Yeah, crawl under the car and fix your own exhaust pipe, dude. That's how glamorous you are. Yeah, it's a good thing I had my welder. Hey, but that's freedom. I should tell you. That is freedom. People talk about financial slavery. They talk about the government enslaving us or big corporations because we go into debt. But debt is a choice. I have debt from years ago that I'll probably never be able to pay off, but that was my choice. Maybe someday I'll pay it off. That's another story though. But I am largely free, okay? Because I drive an old piece of crap car. And today my exhaust fell off, but I didn't worry about it. A lot of people, that would be devastating. I understand. Because if you don't have very much money and your exhaust falls off your car, you're going to be like, what am I going to do? I got to get it fixed. I can't afford it. But me, I try to be as independent and self-sufficient, self-sustaining as I possibly can be. So I am all about doing things myself. That's why I learned, even when I was very young, when I was like 16, I was learning how to fix my own car. So I always have wheels. But I've earned that. I literally have earned it because I bought that car for like a bag of chips about 5 years ago, like literally off the as-is line at a car dealership. And then I fixed it up. I just repaired everything and I've got a pretty good little car. But the exhaust fell off, but it didn't cost me like $1,000 or even $500. You know how much it cost me to fix that exhaust today? Nothing. Now, because I had a pipe already here from a previous repair, it was the right size that I needed, and I just cut it to length, and then I got out my little welder, and I laid under the car, and I fixed it all myself. I just welded up what I needed, because I learned how to do that a long time ago, and I fixed her up. I didn't have to spend $500 or $1,000 or $200. It was like literally nothing. I had a piece of pipe, brand new pipe, just that I kept. I didn't throw it away. I'll be needing that one of these days. That exhaust's going to fall off one of these cars. I'm going to need that pipe. And I kept it, and it came in handy today. Otherwise, the repair probably would have cost me about $20. So I had everything I needed right here, including my hands. I crawled underneath the car. because my life is so glamorous. But you know, if you want a $150,000 car or a $100,000 pickup truck, have at it, okay? But you're going to be in debt. And don't go blaming the big corporations for your debt if you make that kind of a purchase. That's a choice. Me, that car's bought, paid for, it doesn't owe me anything today. The repair cost me $0. Nothing. That's freedom, in my opinion. Now, I'm not out to impress anybody when I'm driving around in that old V-dub. But I love that little old car, and I don't worry about it. If I get a little ding here, some kids were playing out on the street there last year. They threw a ball, and it's got a dent in the side of the back door. It's a four-door. And I don't care. I can fix that too. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It's fine. They can throw the balls around if they smack my car. I ain't going to get upset. They're kids. That's what kids do. They throw balls at cars. So if you got a $100,000 truck, sorry to tell you, man, it's going to get done at some point. Some lady's going to throw a shopping cart right into that thing next time you go to the supermarket. I'm just telling you. Okay, you want... Now, there's the Alex Baldwin story, but you all guys all know that. Come on, this Inquirer's got to do better than that. We got to get to this frozen head story. All right. Oh, first, I was ambushed by poison spider swarm. Oh, man. Venomous spiders viciously attacked Jessica Rogue, leaving the Georgia gal horribly disfigured and feeling as if her skin was on fire. Jessica, 44, was sweeping out a shed on her property in Bogart, about 14 miles west of Athens, when she was targeted by a colossal cluster of creepy crawlies. Ah! I don't like spiders. I kill spiders. I immediately felt something on my face next to my eye. I felt I got bit, she said. I'm just checking my audio here. Yeah, I'm okay, I think. There were spiders on me where I was. It was a really messy web, and I was trying to clean that up, Jessica explains. She's a single mother of 3. The plucky parent initially thought little of the annoying encounter because she'd previously been nipped by other 8-legged pests many times. But less than 24 hours later, her face, throat, and arms were gruesomely swollen and her skin erupted into excruciating blisters. She remembers thinking, quote, "This is escalating. This is getting worse." Jessica rushed to a hospital where docs determined she'd been assaulted by deadly brown recluse spiders. The fanged killers are one of the most poisonous spiders in the United States, coming in second only to the notorious Black Widow. I have one of those upstairs. Oh, no, she's not a widow. And she's not even black. She's nice to me, as long as I take out the garbage. Brown recluses are known to lurk in undisturbed spaces, such as... If you tell my wife that I said anything like that, please don't. Please. Brown recluses are known to lurk in undisturbed spaces, such as attic storage areas and wall or ceiling voids, and their potent venom can trigger necrosis. Do you know what necrosis is? It's like dying flesh. The death of cells and body tissues. Potentially causing crippling amputations or fatal consequences. Medical treatment returned Jessica's features to their normal size, but she has experienced lingering numbness and a loss of mobility in one hand and foot, which may or may not be permanent. She's also being left with ugly scars and rashes and currently wears a patch on her injured eye. Oh, there's a picture of her. Right there. Gotta feel bad for her. Now she admits my eye is what I'm really worried about. I'm having a lot of pain. I just don't know what's going to happen with my eye. Still, the brave survivor is counting her blessings. She acknowledges some people don't end up being as lucky as I am. Now, we actually have two stories about heads, because two head stories are better than one. Oh, and of course, before we get to the big one, let's go to the batty one with Ozzy Osbourne. Batty Ozzy bites Britney's head off. Batty Ozzy bites Britney's head off. And there's a picture of Britney nude with a big star on her butt. How do you like that? Talk about deteriorating community standards. And talk about somebody who's in need of a psychiatric evaluation. Yeah, Britney Spears. Yeah, she's been there, still there. Ailing invalid Ozzy Osbourne is fed up with Britney Spears for posting too many homemade dance videos on Instagram. No kidding. Have you seen them? Although the bat-biting Black Sabbath frontman, 75, is plagued with major health challenges, including Parkinson's disease and 4 spinal surgeries that have left him largely confined to his bed and a wheelchair for the past 10 months. It's Brit's social media posts that were at the forefront of his mind on a recent episode of The Osbournes podcast. I should remind Ozzy Osbourne that if he's worried about biting someone's head off, he should maybe think back, like, this is a guy, what's my point? This guy bit the head off a bat on stage, live. Weird? Oh, yeah. Appearing with his wife Sharon and their children Jack and Kelly, Ozzy bemoaned poor old Britney's stuff-strutting videos, which he claims she posts every effing day. He later added, it's sad, very, very sad. The baby one more time star has defended her posts as a form of therapy. I told you, she's in need of that. And I guess she administers her own kind of therapy by dancing online. Ozzy and Sharon announced they were relocating back to England in 2022, but the move was put on hold because of his declining health. What that has to do with this, I don't know. Maybe they feel that by moving back there, they can escape the Britney social media dance fever. Ted Williams brain teaser. Here's the big one. This is the frozen head story I've been promising, and now I'm delivering. Ted Williams. Who was Ted Williams? Baseball star. The late great baseball legend Ted Williams. This is also a very weird story, so brace yourselves. The late great baseball legend Ted Williams literally lost his head after his death 22 years ago. I had no idea. And the missing noggin remains a mystery to this day. The Boston Red Sox Hall of Fame slugger, widely regarded as the greatest hitter of all time, I thought that was Babe Ruth, died at age 83 in 2002. But his head got frozen and eventually picked off. The shocking death of his 52-year-old daughter, Claudia, last year, which was mysteriously only announced on July 10th, has sparked new questions about her dad's MIA body part. The perennial All-Stars family was ripped apart when Claudia and Ted's only son, John Henry, had their dad's dome, where do they come up with this language, detached from his body to be cryonically preserved at the Alcor Life Extension Foundation in Scottsdale, Arizona. Their game plan was for the head to be preserved until a future scientific breakthrough would allow it to be teamed with a healthy body so Ted could make an unlikely comeback. But the idea struck out. This isn't such bad taste all the way around. But hey, what do you expect when you have your head frozen and you're a celebrity? You're fair game for the National Enquirer. And Maverick news truspiracy episodes, I guess. But the idea struck out with their older half-sister, Bobby Jo Farrell, who went to court to demand Ted's head be reunited with his body. She claimed the splendid Splinter had wanted his ashes to be sprinkled at sea, and also accused her siblings of intending to sell her dear old dad's DNA to the highest bidder. This is bizarre. I told you, man, nothing is normal anymore. But John Henry died of leukemia in 2004, and Bobby Jo eventually gave up the battle before passing away in 2010. The story got even more gruesome in 2009 when former Alcor exec Larry Johnson wrote a damning tell-all charging he witnessed Ted's frozen head being batted around like a baseball and even placed in a tuna can by employees at the facility. I'm not making this up. They are. Or are they? Inquiring minds want to know. Alcor denied Johnson's allegations, pointing out it is a not-for-profit foundation and not in the business of selling his clients' body parts. Oh, hang on a second here. Yeah, no, that's right. Claudia's 61-year-old widower and family attorney Eric Abel also refutes Johnston's disturbing claims. Quote, "We fought to keep that out of the public, but were unsuccessful," he says. "I guess everyone reached their own conclusion. Claudia's death has effectively shut down any further details about the whereabouts of the great ball player's bean." Oh, my God. They just don't stop with the puns. Abel vows that the information will remain a family secret. Quote, "I say the same as we said with every loss in the Williams family," notes Abel. "I've been the attorney for the Williams family for 30 years. Our only statement has ever been, and will continue to be, that's a private family matter." Which is why it's all laid out right here on the pages of the National Enquirer. For all to know, for the world to witness. Bizarre stories. A bizarre time. Nothing is normal still. The pandemic might sort of be over, but it's not over. It lingers. It isn't just a virus that affected the respiratory systems of people. I would say the pandemic is lingering as a virus that's affecting our minds, a mind virus. There is a war on for our minds. Beware. Beware. I will return, folks, tomorrow night. Thank you all for spending your time with us here tonight. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. On the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.